Hey everybody, I'm talking to the Acclaimed right now. You've seen them recently on AEW Dark, AEW Dynamite. I have Anthony Bowens, Max Caster. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing quite well. Excited to
Cool.
start today.
Bones, you're in a dark room. You look very spooky. What's up?
Light source in here is not the best. Probably should have did this downstairs, but I'm here.
Hey, if it makes you feel better, I have my virtual classroom set up behind me, so it's not as nice as what you see right now.
I thought that was real marble walls.
No, that's another home improvement thing I got to work on.
There you
go. So I wanted to, get into your respective careers before AEW, currently, but first things first, I saw that you guys are working on a new Acclaimed music video. You said, you kind of teased it. It's coming soon. When is that soon? Any sort of indication when we can expect to see that drop?
I think in the next couple of weeks. We don't want to do these too much. We want to make sure they're special, but we feel like people have gotten a good taste of what the Acclaimed are about on Dynamite, but they don't know us from a personal perspective. So this music video is going to try and highlight who we are as individuals and as a team. So we're pretty excited about it.
And I do want to say it's going to be the first official single off the Acclaimed mixtape coming to streaming services near you very soon.
Yeah, we got that coming too, so that's cool.
That I'm actually excited about that. I don't think anybody was expecting such a large scale project, but I want to jump back to something that you just brought up about knowing you on a personal level. And I know you guys are familiar to an AEW audience for the most part. But Anthony, specifically with you, I know your work from WrestlePro, that I will give them credit. They kind of got me into the indie scene in the first place, just because I lived locally. This was, even when Pat was doing Pro Wrestling Syndicate, but I lived in Belmar, so Rahway was right there, and that was kind of like my home promotion for a while. And I know Max has ties with Create a Pro, but can you just talk about how you guys got together? And was it as simple as two sister schools, so to speak, and you kind of met through there? Did you guys know about each other beforehand?
So I started at PWS, or Create a Pro New Jersey, in December of 2012. So it's about 8 years max. What, you were 6 years, 7 years?
Yeah, I started March 2014 in the New York school.
So Max and I only knew each other really through, sometimes I'd come out to Create a Pro New York and I would train. I don't think we've been in the ring with each other more than one time, and that was like in a 6-way match, and we barely touched each other. So we only knew each other really in passing before AEW.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that at the open house at the New York school, Anthony wrestled a match that I watched from ringside, and I was like, oh, this guy's only been doing it a year. He's really good. Mm-hmm. And so it was another thing that kind of helped me move on with my wrestling journey.
And he was so inspired that he said 7 years later he wants to tag with me on national television.
Right.
So that leads me into my next question. How you guys seem like you didn't take long to grow chemistry wise, and you got a really big opportunity early on with the Bucks, but can you just talk about what was it like your idea to team together? Was that something that you had to get used to, or did you feel like having that connection prior to AEW really benefited you and you didn't really have to talk about things as much as just it really just came together on its own?
So it's kind of a crazy story. So we both were in a scenario where we found ourselves kind of almost in between two of the biggest wrestling companies in the world without even knowing it. So I'd come down to Jacksonville to meet with Tony, and I had gotten on the elevator, and Max got on the elevator as well. And I was like, oh, what are you doing here? And he goes, I'm here to meet with Tony. I'm like, oh, I'm here to meet with Tony. And then come to find out that we were having the same meeting together. And we met with Tony. He said, "Hey, I know you guys kind of know each other from the Indies. I have this idea for you guys. It's called the Acclaimed. I've always wanted to name a tag team this, and I think that you two would be the perfect, I guess, um, people for it." And then a couple hours later, we found ourselves wrestling Best Friends, and it was kind of thrown together. Like, we didn't know what we were doing. And
Mhm.
I think that's the coolest thing about the Acclaimed, is that fans get to see this entire journey from start to finish that you may not be able to have seen like other tag teams do. Like, for the most part, when you see a tag team on television, they've been either spent 6 months in a warehouse polishing out the imperfections, or they've been wrestling with each other for however many so years. Like Top Flight, they've been wrestling with their brothers. They've been wrestling with each other since they're 13, 14 years old. We've never tagged before. So you get to see, you can literally go on YouTube, watch our very first match tagging together, where Max is rapping over no music and I'm awkwardly standing there going, what the hell do I do right now? I don't know what's happening. To us in our 10th match together, main eventing Dynamite for the AEW Tag Team titles against the Young Bucks. So every time you see us step in the ring, it's us learning, it's us developing our chemistry, and I think as a fan, that's super cool. You get to watch the entire journey from start to hopefully the next couple years.
Yeah, and then that meeting with Tony, when he said the name Acclaimed, it sounded weird to me at first, and then I started thinking, well, who are the two more acclaimed wrestlers in the world than Anthony and I, especially on an unsigned level at that point, where both of us, whenever we would have a match, people would come up to us and say, you guys need to sign a contract. You guys need to be on TV. You guys would be perfect on a nationwide, a worldwide audience. And that put a chip on my shoulder. I'm sure it put a chip on Anthony's shoulder too, to where now we've somehow merged our paths in this office in Daly's place in Jacksonville, Florida. And it's like the Acclaimed. Yeah, we are actually acclaimed. We have a lot of acclaim. Anthony, I mean, God, look at all the stuff he does. Look at all the praise that he gets. Platinum Max, of course, the best wrestler alive. And it's the name that makes sense the most. I'm like, okay, we are the Acclaimed.
And I think you can see our confidence and how much we believe in this, and our characters grow each and every single week. I was just watching Dark last night at some of our older matches, and I was like, ooh. But as each match goes on, like you can see how the gimmick becomes slowly and slowly more polished, and we slowly start to slip into the roles a lot more and get more comfortable on camera and with each other.
I think both of you touched on an interesting point, because I'm sure you're no stranger to that tag of, being the best unsigned wrestler, or why haven't you signed yet? Do you think part of the way that you've been able to grow so quickly is because you finally like shed that label, and you don't have to worry about getting signed, and maybe going back to that, wrestling school connection, where even though they're two different schools, it's still, you've been able to find where you are similar without having to discuss it?
No, it's not that. It's that we're two of the best wrestlers in the world right now. And when you pair us together, what's going to happen? We're just going to continue being two of the best wrestlers in the world. So that's what's helped us grow and have as much success as we had so far. It's not so much like, oh, shedding that label. Okay, the label's gone. Now we're signed talent. But how do we become the best signed talent? How do we become signed for more money? How do we become signed for more years? How do we become bigger stars than the 2 hours a week on TNT or the couple hours a week on Dark? That, I think, is the goal in general. We both are incredible wrestlers, and we both are incredible in what we do outside of wrestling. Bowen's being an actor and a YouTuber, me being a musician. And so it's like, okay, well, we just have to keep pushing. This, you still need to have an indie mentality, even when we're here. If you get complacent and you say, okay, that's the contract I have. Okay, well, then in a couple of years when the contract is up, you won't have another one. So I'm always pushing forward. I know Bowens is always pushing forward because we talk all the time. And and it's not so much shedding the label. It's just that we are great and we want to be greater.
Yeah, Tony Khan clearly believed in us and had an idea for us. And, I took that personally as a challenge to make sure that I give everything I can to this company to get better and continue to become bigger stars and also complete that challenge. I want to make sure I make him proud. I want to make everyone proud.
And I will say the reason I bring it up is just because I'm familiar with you guys regionally, as I've stated, but it felt like on a national level, you're going to hear that conversation, and you're going to have, okay, well, the argument of how how are they cocky, how are they confident, like what's the balance, what's appropriate to say. And I think you're proving not only do you deserve to be signed at this point, but you work as a team and you deserve the spot that you got. I mean, earned and specifically speaking, like you got the tag title shot. But how did you guys feel in general about just being a tag team? Like, I know you guys had a relationship. You kind of found out about Tony's idea at the same time, but specifically speaking, as far as having singular identities like Anthony, the 5 tool player, and then Platinum Max, like you had a lot of brand recognition, so to speak. So how do you feel about moving forward, putting that together in a tag team and making sure that you're still those individual people, but also building a third brand or a new brand as the Acclaimed?
Initially, it was a bit scary because both of us have, paved or have been, as you said, building a brand the last couple of years in the indies as singles wrestlers. So when we were coming in, we were thinking, hey, we're going to come in here as singles. And now, next thing you know, we're a tag team and we have to kind of almost go back to the drawing board and, figure out, what's our move set? How do we move in the ring together? How do we communicate with each other? The psychology of matches without getting into that. Like, there's so many different levels to being a tag team that are completely different than being a singles wrestler. So from that, initially, it was a bit scary, but I think we sat down, we hammered out a lot of things as much as we can, and we continue to every single week. And I think being in a tag team is fun, and creating these new identities together is also very fun. Like I stated before, like when we first came out and we did our first entrance, Max was just rapping over no music, and I was just standing there. And this presented this fun challenge of us sitting down and hammering out all these ideas of like, who are we? How can we build the Acclaimed brand? Who are we as individuals? And now Max has this awesome theme song that he gets to rap to every week, and I'm this ridiculous meme generating hype man that sits there and hypes up all his dope bars. So I think it's been such a fun process after initially being a little bit scary.
Yeah, I did not want to be in a tag team at first. And it's turned out really great because you see the landscape of AEW, and sometimes you wonder how guys get over that hump. And maybe being in the team was the way to do it. Obviously, it was for us because it was Tony Khan's idea. But now you put us together, we have a similar style in the ring, a style that not many people have in AEW, and we're able to stand out in that way. We're a lot bigger than the people in AEW. We stand out in that way. We're definitely more handsome and more talented than everybody in AEW. So, it's a perfect fit, and I couldn't be happier in the Acclaimed right now.
So you guys have the physical attributes, you have the win-loss advantage. One of the things that you have the advantage of as far as a presentation standpoint is, Anthony referenced, your rhymes. You have a great theme song. You come in and it creates excitement before you guys even step in the ropes. So can you walk us through the creative process as far as just writing rhymes in general, or what kind of balance you guys hope to strike between, who takes the lead, Anthony mentioned being a hype man, but how does that contrast from trying to put the physical, the in-ring part of the Acclaim together versus the verbal stuff before you even get in the ring?
The rhymes on the stage, on the entrance, that's pretty much me coming up with it, and then I'll run it by Anthony. And there have been times where he saved me and I was going to step over the line, and it would have been bad, like real bad. And he helps me pull it back, and he'll, I'll always ask ideas like, hey, how could I attack this guy and really make him feel horrible about himself? How can I really get under his skin in his personal life? You want to check his Twitter, see if he has a wife or something. It really is about hitting people where it hurts. And as long as we can start off a match like that, we're already at an advantage, because these people don't know what's coming, and they're going to have hurt feelings, and they're going to throw their game plan out the window. So whatever they planned on doing, it's now going to be altered by the rage building inside them. And then that's where we come in, being two great technical all around wrestlers. It's, easy from there. So, and then I think Anthony I'll always run it by Anthony. I'll do it for him a couple times so he knows where he's going to be on stage. And that's kind of where the collaboration really happens.
I also have to add that I'm also very lucky to have Max, because I have a lot of wacky, ridiculous, goofy ideas that most people would be like, Bowen, you're dumb, we're not doing that. And Max is always on board.
Now we're doing it.
Great, let's do it. So I'm super thrilled to have him on my side with a lot of those things. So I think the outside of the rap, it's a very collaborative process. Rapping is not my expertise. That's all Platinum Max. So I let him, go do it. I let him do what he needs to do to get into the zone. And then if by chance it gets a little crazy, I'm like, yeah, let's nix that one. But, he has free reign to do what he needs. And but other than that, we collab on pretty much everything, the music videos, the websites, all the creative stuff that we've done or been lucky to do in the last 2 months is a pretty collaborative process. And we hope to do a lot more wacky, crazy, ridiculous stuff to piss people off.
I think you guys both established that you maybe not have a line, but is there a line you won't cross? Like, is there something that you won't put in there, whether you just want to give a yay or nay answer? And, I don't want to give anybody else an advantage and say like, oh yeah, we're going to do the thing they won't do. But is there something that you just personally don't care to do?
It depends to me. If it has something to do with what's happening on the show or within the company, I think that's perfectly fine. If it's some guy has a girlfriend everybody knows about or something like that, like maybe, but overall, I try not to curse. I know I cursed on Dynamite the other week. They told me not to do that. And, there really is no line. It's just being creative enough to say things without getting in trouble. And I think that's where I've trained myself over the last, I don't know, probably my whole life, being able to say things. I used to be on the radio. I would say things in a way that wouldn't get me in trouble. When I rap, I try not to curse. Most of my raps have no curses. Sometimes you can't replace it, but a lot of times I have to think, okay, well, a kid's going to listen to this. So how do I say this without the kid knowing, but maybe the parents know? It's like an episode of SpongeBob. You have jokes in there that adults get on a different level than kids. So I approach it that way. So I try and keep it clean, but clever enough to really let people know that I know what I'm doing.
I talked to Doc Gallows not too long ago, and it was in context of Talking Shopomania, and I asked him, you guys poke fun at almost everything. Is there a line you won't cross? And he was kind of like, you know what? In terms of the wrestling business and what you see on TV, like, it's open season. Like, that's wrestling opens itself up just based on what it is. It's theatrical, it's physical, it's, good guy, bad guy. So I certainly respect that. I don't think I've ever heard anything that I was like, oh, that's ill-advised or whatever. But I think it's important to, you know, have a code, and it sounds like you guys have that. So
For sure. I'm respectful to a point, I'll say. If it's on the show, there's some things that we can throw in there that aren't on the show necessarily, like in our music video, having one of the Young Bucks be bald, right? A lot of people think that Nick Jackson is bald. Okay, I'm sure that bothers him, so let's put that in our music video. So it's a weird line. You just have to find it, but be clever about it.
yeah, nah, I'm with you there. In closing, I usually ask this question with more of a broader spectrum for match recommendations, and it's usually like, okay, before AEW, before WWE, whatever. But you guys have a lot of your best material together right there on YouTube. Like, we can go and watch it. So out of the matches you guys have had together in AEW, whether it's Dark or Dynamite, can you guys pick one that you would point to and say, you know what, that's the match that I want people to know that's what they get when they hear the name The Acclaimed?
I think it's got to be the main event with the Young Bucks, because for a while we've been trying to really cement ourselves, improve ourselves to everyone, whether it's fans, whether it's AEW. And I think that cemented us like, hey, the Acclaimed are here in AEW. We're the real deal. We're going to force to be reckoned with for years to come. We just needed that opportunity on the big stage to show that we can handle the pressure of being on a main event, to show that we can handle the pressure of wrestling one of the best tag teams in the world. And I think we've knocked it out of the park completely. And we're excited for future opportunities and whatever comes next. Pay-per-views, tag team titles, the Acclaimed are going to bring it. Sorry.
Yeah. Got to be the Young Bucks match. And on another note, after that match, I think people looked at us a lot differently, at least at the arena there. And people were like, okay, well, these guys aren't just big jacked guys. They're not just random guys that we threw together. They actually are really good. And it took that to prove to everybody that the Acclaimed actually comes with a lot of acclaim. So the Young Bucks match, most proud of that, very happy with that. And yeah, just the response has been crazy. And since then, I think it's all uphill.
All right. You guys heard it from the Acclaim themselves. You can check them out on AEW Dark on Tuesday nights, AEW Dynamite on Wednesday on TNT. And we'll wait and see when the next music collaboration drops. Anthony Bowens, Max Caster, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you for having us.
Peace.